So go ahead and sit in swastikasana. Actually, you know, if I was thinking about this in terms of that sequence, let's sit in sukhasana instead. So sukhasana, as opposed to swastikasana, is you bring your feet out a little bit more. Sukhasana means pose of ease. And I'm on the little toe side of my foot. Okay, so my foot is actually basically doing Tadasana. And it has, I mean, it's very similar shape to swastikasana, but in terms of the cross of the legs, but it has a little bit of a different feel in drawing the outer hips in. Right? So be on the little toe side of the foot as much as you can. I'm up on a fair bit of height just because the bolster was here. So I'm actually putting this blanket between my knees and my feet. So keep extending from your inner knee through your inner heel. That's really something that the swastikasana teaches. Draw up from the outer knee into your outer hip, which you may feel slightly differently in its effect if you're used to starting off with how we normally do swastikasana. Then feeling that firmness in the outer hips, lengthen up through your side ribs. Roll your shoulder bones back. Bring your shoulder blades in, away from the neck and into the center of the body and up a little bit. So you feel a lift come all the way up into the chest. I can feel myself leaning forward a little bit. So I'm gonna lean my weight back a little tiny bit. So my torso, just even in this seated pose, is beginning to do Tadasana, mountain pose. Hey, Pratima, welcome. And keeping your chest well lifted and broad, close your eyes and fold your palms together at your heart. Place your thumb at your sternum. And push your thumb gently into your sternum and then lift your sternum up into your thumbs. And then use your forearms and lift your rib cage up. And as you do that, you should feel your collarbone get broader and your trapezius muscles release away from the neck. And keeping your chest well lifted and broad, turn your awareness now to the breath. And as you inhale, make yourself taller from the tailbone all the way up through the head. Keep that height, and as you exhale, draw the prana, the energy of the breath, outward towards your side ribs and armpits. Inhale, make yourself tall. Keep that height. Exhale, make yourself broad. Inhale, extend yourself. Exhale, expand yourself. Use that breath to create a sense of inner spaciousness in the body so that the inner spaciousness fills up or matches the external frame that you've created through postural adjustment. And turn your awareness to that sense of inner spaciousness itself. Follow the exhalations with your mind, like it's a pathway or a thread that you can follow to that inner world, that inner landscape of you, the domain of yoga. Follow that sound with your mind. Follow the reverberation of the sound with your mind. And from that space, inhale once more. Keep your chest well lifted and broad. And bring your chin down to your chest and your hands down to your thighs with your palms up. And then raise your head and open your eyes. And then check back in and see, are your feet still really on that little toe side of the foot? Or have they like kind of flopped more to the top of the foot? Takes a little bit more active awareness, I think, to do this Sukhasana. All right, then from Sukhasana, notice which leg you've got in front. I've got my right leg in front. It may look like my left leg, but it's my right leg. And then stretch your legs out into Dandasana, step toes. Join your big toes together and spread your other toes wide apart. And from the little toe side of the foot, you draw up into your outer hip. So that drawing up from the outer hips is pretty consistent work. Sometimes people teach it also moves the other way, but generally, regardless of the pose that you're doing, that action of the outer leg is pretty consistent. Little toe drawing up to the outer hip. In Tadasana and Dandasana. And so to feel that a little bit more, go ahead and take a strap And put the strap, we're gonna put the strap on the top, right around a little below the ball of the foot first. Okay. And then hold on to the strap with both hands. Keep your arms straight. Join your big toes together, spread your other toes wide apart, but pull on the strap with your arms. And just notice what happens in your chest when you pull on the strap with your arms. First, and you can keep your legs obviously a little bit apart. When you pull on the strap of the arms, you can feel your chest lift nicely. And then turn your biceps up toward the ceiling. And pull on the strap again. And then let your shoulder blades move in, away from the neck, and into the center of the body and up a little bit by lifting the strap up a little bit. And Dandasana really is like seated Tadasana. And your legs are doing exactly the same thing that they'll do in Dandasana. Your arms are doing a slightly different work here just because you're gripping onto the strap. But your torso is in Tadasana. All right, then cross your legs the other way to Sukhasana. So you're gonna bring your right foot and put it right underneath your left knee and make sure you're on the little toe side of the foot. Sometimes you can even, I don't have my blocks within reach or I would do it, but you can even put a block against that bottom of the foot so that you know that your foot is actually staying in Tadasana. And then cross the leg the other way. And you know, for past several months, I've been more doing swastikasana than sukhasana. And so I'm actually finding this a tiny bit challenging in terms of just sitting. All right, so you have to really move from the inner knee through the inner heel. That's a good thing about sukhasana. And then draw it from the outer knee into the outer hips. And that's a slightly different feeling than when we have our foot turned the other way. And then I've got some gap you can see between my foot and my knee. And so I'm taking a little bit of blanket roll and putting the blanket roll between the foot and the knee so that the knees can settle a little bit more. And once I did that, I felt a release come into the groin. And check back in and make sure you're still extending from your inner knee through your inner heel. Lengthen up through your side ribs and roll the shoulder bones back. Feel the collarbone broaden. Then take your shoulder blades in, away from the neck and into the center of the body and up a little bit. Then let's add a different work of the arms now on the second side. Spread your palm like you're doing downward facing dog. And just press your palms down into the floor and lift up into your armpits. So use those arms to help you establish a nice lift in the chest. And then take your awareness to your outer upper shoulder blades and move them in a little bit more and feel how the front of the chest responds to that. So you get broad through the front of your collarbones. All right, and stretch your legs out into Dandasana again. This time we're gonna move where we put the strap. So we're gonna put it where we've been putting it lately, which is just above the heel at the bottom of the arch. You could move it many places on the foot and it would have a slightly different effect. So and if you don't remember what the first one felt like, you can move it back up just a bit for a second. But one of the things I like about having the strap a little bit lower is my toes feel like they have a little bit more freedom to spread apart. And then I also get a little bit firmer engagement in the outer hip when I pull on that lower heel. It's not that I don't get it in the other one, but it just feels to me more stable and secure. All right, notice how your quadriceps are automatically lifted and your inner thighs are engaged. And then pull on the strap a little bit more so you really feel those outer femur bones draw in and your sitting bones come a little bit closer together. Then pull on the strap so your chest lifts. Rotate your biceps up toward the ceiling. And then rotate the bicep. Oh, and then lift up on the strap a little bit. Not so you distort the wrists, but that upward lift of the arms, you should feel some more lift come all the way up into the chest. Okay, so that's Dandasana. All right. Now we're gonna, again, remember the sequence is Tadasana, Vrikshasana, Trikonasana are the first three poses. So we're gonna do a little bit of supine work that prepares us to do those three poses. So if you have the ability to move your sticky mat with the short edge toward a wall. Go ahead and do that now. And you'll need a strap if you have one. And if you have a brick, an extra blanket, or an extra sticky mat, bring that along in your journey toward moving your sticky mat toward the wall. I actually, a lot of times use a brick, but for Supta Padangusthasana too, but yesterday I happened to use a rolled sticky mat. And one thing that's nice about the rolled sticky mat or a rolled blanket you can use, as opposed to a brick, is it's a little smaller so you can get a little bit more range of motion, but you're also more able to angle it. Okay? So when we go out into moving the leg off to the side, you're going to angle this roll or this brick into a V. Okay? And I'll just have it there to show you. So I'm moving my sticky mat to the short edge of this wall. I'm going to have my strap and my hip support. And then you're going to have that on the right side of your body. And then lie down on the floor with your knees bent and the balls of the feet up at the wall. Then hold on to the sticky mat with your hands. And push the balls of the feet and the heels into the wall as you straighten your legs. And come into the pose that is called Supta Tadasana. So Dandasana was really just like a seated Tadasana. Now we're doing a supine Tadasana. It's not Shavasana, because the feet are together and you're doing a lot of active work. But this orientation of Supta Tadasana or Supta Tadasana is a really nice thing to do for a variety of reasons. Okay? Join your big toes together like you did in Dandasana and spread your toes apart. And then from the little toe side of the foot, draw up into the outer hips. But when you do that little pull, bend your knees again just slightly. When you do that little pull with your hands on the sticky mat, you'll feel that it draws your buttock flush toward your heels, your trapezius skin away from your neck, and you'll also feel that your chest lifts. And then you don't have to grip the sticky mat anymore. You can just put your hands at your sides with your, actually put the hands at your sides with your little pinkies on the floor, because that's the position of the hands of Tadasana, right? So extend through your fingers to your feet, but also press the floor with your little fingers. And as you do that, you'll feel that more awareness of your shoulder blades and more lift come into your chest, right? The other thing that's nice about the floor is it gives you a lot of feedback. You can do the back of your legs feel even with each other, maybe, maybe not. For instance, for me, my right leg is more firmly pressed to the floor than my left leg. So I'm gonna pay a little bit more attention to my left leg and push that top thigh down a little bit more. Also, while you're here, you can feel your shoulder blades on the floor. Are your shoulder blades feeling even on the floor, or do they need to be adjusted a little bit? Probably they need to be adjusted a little bit. So bend your elbows, push your elbows down and lift the shoulder blades off the floor a little bit. Move them in, away from the neck and into the center of the body and up a little bit, and then lower them back down so that they're more evenly set on the floor. And then add your arms. Okay, so that's the beginning of the Supta Padangusthasana cycle. Later, we're going to do Supta 1, but right now we're just going to go out into Supta Padangusthasana 2. So put some support by your right hip. Again, I have it angled so that it's like a V shape and the lower part of the V goes toward my feet. Then take your strap. Briefly go into Supta Padangusthasana 1 just so you can put your strap on. And you can decide yourself where you want it on your foot. Right? And then move your leg out to the right. And as you move that leg out to the right, whatever you have support should hit your other and you're going to open more. Someone's phone is on. And you should feel some firmness some release coming into the groin of the left side. Now really, just like swastikasana, we worked on that today. Okay. So really extend from that inner knee through the inner heel. And you have that strap that you can pull from the little toe side of the foot into the outer hip. Now to make this pose be a little bit more like triangle pose, move your bottom leg, which will be your left leg, off to the left. Okay. So it may even move off the sticky mat if you can manage that. And then turn your toes in a little bit and feel how that releases the groin. Now to make it be even a little bit more like triangle pose, slightly externally rotate your right leg, not so the toes go all the way down toward the floor, but just give it a little bit of an external rotation and feel how that draws the outer hip in a little bit more. So this is basically supine trikonasana. Then take your left leg and move it back to the Tadasana shape. Move your right leg back up to the center and lower your right leg back down now to Supta Tadasana. Then before you do the second side, okay, see if you can feel differences between the right side and the left side. So now I did my left side even though I said it was the right side, but in my own body, the left side in Supta Tadasana was not working as well originally. Then after I took it out to the side, now it feels like it's more engaged in doing what it's supposed to do. So hopefully your experience of going out into Supta 2 has made your Supta Tadasana better. And if it hasn't, it's okay. You're still doing it. It probably has. You might not be able to articulate what exactly that difference is. And sometimes it takes a long time to build up the ability to discern the effect of yoga. And then beyond that, even if you can discern it, it takes a while to be able to verbally articulate it to yourself. But it's a good practice to develop. All right, so second side. So move your little, let's say, bumper car. What are those things called in the edge of bumper car? Like a border or something that keeps the bumper car from actually crashing into the car. It's like that's basically what your strap is, what you're going to do. All right, then put the strap on your foot. Straighten your leg. Then we're going to come back and do Supta Padangusthasana 1 later in the sequence. So we're not dwelling on Supta Padangusthasana 1 at this point. And move your left leg out to the left for Supta Padangusthasana 2. And we're thinking about this pose, which comes much later in the sequences, but we're just thinking about it in terms of the first sequence. It's basically like triangle pose. To make it more like triangle pose, move your bottom leg out as wide as you can. I mean, you can move it even beyond your sticky mat. And then once you've moved it out wide, turn the toes in a little bit and feel how that releases the groin. And then again, to make it be slightly more like triangle pose, slightly rotate your toes down toward the floor. Don't exaggerate that action, but just do it a little bit. And in that little external rotation movement, hopefully you'll feel that that outer femur bone draws in just a little bit more. All right, then move your bottom leg back in first. Then bring the top leg back up and then lower the leg down. And feel that second Supta Tadasana, and just for the heck of it, reach your arms all the way up above your head. Urdhva Hastasana, stretch and open those armpits. Oh, that's actually a nice little transition. Keeping your armpits really stretched and open on the right side of your body, or whatever side. You can actually turn to whatever side you want. If you want to be facing the screen, it doesn't really matter which side you do first. But you've got these armpits open here now. And so when you turn into Anantasana, bend up one leg and keep that arm in Urdhva Hastasana, and hopefully that arm will be more open than the normal entry into Anantasana. So Urdhva Hastasana gives you a little bit better Anantasana. Then lift up your head and turn it toward the ceiling if it doesn't hurt your neck. And bring your hand up into your head. If this is too much on your shoulder, you can just still be on your arm. Okay? It's also possible to do the pose with your arm out in front and just having your head resting on a brick. Okay, so if you and your shoulders can't manage this little turn of the head, or your neck can't manage it, you can support it in another way. Okay, so one of the things I have learned about exploring this sequence, I think I talked about it last week in this class, is it takes the neck through all of its ranges of motion, okay? Because it's straight up and down, it's slightly turned, okay, to both sides. It arches back and it bends forward, and all of those little things about the neck prepare it to do headstand. So even here, you can think about this turn of the head as being a lot like the turn of the head in triangle pose or Parshvakonasana. They've got this little turn of the head here. And look, here we are in Tadasana on our side. I mean, the sequence goes Tadasana, Vrikshasana, Trikonasana, Parshvakonasana. Okay? And you'll see what those are as we go. Tadasana, right now you're in mountain pose. Second pose is Vrikshasana, tree pose. So bring your leg into tree pose for Anantasana. Push the heel and the top thigh into each other. And you can even use your hand here to move the knee back a little bit and suck your femur bone in, just like you had that little barrier that helped your femur bone suck in Supta Padangusthasana too. Now, we're going to go all the way up with the leg eventually, but the fourth pose of the sequence is Parshvakonasana, side angle pose. And so it has a shape of the leg where it's bent in a 90-degree angle. So make your leg be in that 90-degree angle. Remember Sukhasana and draw from the little toe side of the foot into the outer hip and suck your outer femur bone in. So I can really access, I've discovered from working this sequence this way a couple times, I can access that outer femur bone a lot more in this particular leg position in the air. Now move your knee closer to your armpit and get your big toe, or put a strap around your foot if you're hamstring challenged in any way. And then bring your leg up into the final stage of Anantasana with the leg straight. And look, we're basically in triangle pose. We're basically in Supta Padangusthasana too. So pretend you had that strap around the little toe side of the foot, or if you have a strap, use it and pull from the little toe side of the foot into the outer hip. And now you're just going to retrace your steps. So this is triangle pose, Parshvakonasana side angle pose, Vrikshasana with your leg, and see how much better the Vrikshasana is when you come back to it. And then go into Tadasana. So those are the first four poses, but we basically did them while we were in Anantasana. All right, I have to roll to the side so I can see you the other way. So I'm sliding around. You can either slide around or you are welcome not to look at the screen. Okay, so I don't remember being taught this or doing it regularly, but I liked this entry. All right, so stretch your arms above your head. So you're in Urdhva Hastasana here. Knowing that we're actually going to do Urdhva Namaskarasana, you could actually join your palms together and stretch up and feel that difference in your shoulder blades. Then move your arms back so that they're shoulder width apart. Then whatever leg you're not rolling to, bend that up a little bit and then roll over with your arm already in Urdhva Hastasana and then straighten out your leg. Now on this side, obviously I don't have my feet at the wall, so it's a little bit more challenging to balance. So I have to really draw up from that little toe side of the foot and draw my outer hip in. Then lengthen from your armpit, lift your head up, turn your head a little bit, and that also has a relationship, like I said, to Trikonasana, and rest your occipital bone into your hand. And then you know the adaptations if you can't do that. You go back here, or you can put your arm out in front of you and use the brick, okay? Anantasana. Tadasana, though, is basically like headstand position now that I think about it. Okay, so we've got the Tadasana stage of Anantasana, mountain pose on its side. Anantasana means infinity pose. It's sometimes called Vishnu's couch. And so the idea is that you're kind of just observing creation unfold through infinity. Okay. Cultivating a sense of upeksha as you watch that happen, indifference. Then bend your leg up into Vrikshasana. Push the heel and the thigh into each other. Remember Sukhasana that we did at the beginning of class, and really draw up from your outer knee into your outer hip. And then from Vrikshasana leg, tree pose leg, open the fold of your knee to a 90-degree angle, so it's in the angle of Parsvakonasana or side angle pose. And again, here, I can really access moving that outer femur bone in more than I can in Vrikshasana, actually, in this particular position. Okay. It's something I just have learned from this sequence. Now, pull your knee in, get your big toe, or put a strap on the ball of your foot at this time. And before you straighten the leg out, do the Sukhasana action of the little toe side of the foot, drawing up into the outer hip. Yeah. Then straighten your leg. All right. Pull from the little toe side of the foot into the outer hip with both legs. All right, now we're gonna backtrack. So this is like triangle pose. This is like side angle pose, bending your leg. When you come back into Vrikshasana, it should be easier. It feels like you can get your outer femur bone in more, at least I can. And then stretch your leg into Tadasana, mountain pose. Then bend your knees, roll to your side, and then go ahead and stand up. And stand into Tadasana. Anyone have any questions or comments about any of that? You're welcome to ask questions at any time. I know that I'm
One question, Anne.
Yeah.
When I would put my hand under my head, I felt like one side of my spine was really shortening, so I was like curving.
Oh, okay.
So that's it was better for me to lengthen the arm, right, and keep both sides of the spine.
Yes, yeah. That would be true.
To have that a lot, and one of my teachers said that you can correct because of the hip curvature. You can place a blanket under the lower leg and foot to provide a more even lower body experience.
Oh yeah, I remember that too. Yeah, okay. So yeah, you can do that. You can kind of give yourself, well, it's similar to actually the little blanket roll that we did in Supta 2, actually. Okay, we'll stand in Tadasana. First pose sequence, in the sequence, first pose in the book. Stretch through your fingers. Lift the quadriceps and the inner thighs. Turn the thighs in. Lift up into the armpits. Lift up well into the chest. Join your palms together to your heart for Namaskarasana. Lift the thumb up into the sternum. Let the trapezius release away from the neck. All right, then just prepare the arms for Vrikshasana by reaching the arms straight up above your head. If it bothers your shoulder, Karen, keep them apart. That goes for anyone. Okay. This one's challenging. Nice arm lift, very good. All right, and then move your arms back a little bit if you can behind your ears and lift up a little bit more, but make sure your trapezius muscles are still moving away from the neck. Yeah. All right, and then release your arms down. Come back to Tadasana. Second pose in the sequence, Vrikshasana. So turn your leg out. Lift your leg up and place your heel as high on your thigh if you can. If you need to go to the wall to balance and hold on, you're welcome to. I seem to need to. I'm going to do that. Push your foot and your thigh into each other so you really feel those femur bones draw in and your chest lift. Come into Namaskarasana, which means prayer pose. Urdhva means up, Namaskarasana. It also, has a movement back as well. That looks good, Vicki. Suck your outer finger bones in and lift up. Nice, Marcia. All right, looks good, everyone. And then bring your hands down and come back into Tadasana. And then let's do the second side. So turn your leg out, lift your leg up, place your heel as high on your thigh as you can. And then isn't this just like what we did in Anantasana? Right? Press your foot and your thigh into each other. And you don't have to worry about the floor, but move your outer hip in on both sides. You can even use your hand and push the bent leg hip down. Lift up well into the chest, which should hopefully be happening a little bit on its own. Place your hands at your heart. Really use that thumb against the sternum to lift the chest, but also feel how that trapezius muscle releases away from the neck when you do that. Okay. Then reach your arms way, way up into Urdhva Namaskar. Move your arms back behind you if you can. Okay. And then when they're back a little bit more, you can lift them up a little bit more. And if you have your lead in yoga with you, you can, after we end this particular pose, you can take a look at it. His armpits are so open. Okay. And then go ahead and come down. And so that's second thing that happens in that sequence, really interesting to think about. Tadasana, we were here. He introduces balance, okay? And he introduces this arm above the head. Not only above the head, but together above the head. And arms are not only above the head, but behind the head. And so getting that armpit opening is, I would say, crucial and key, because it's really one of the two main components of Vrikshasana, right? That and balance. Okay, so those two things, second pose in the book, second pose in the sequence, my idea is that they will serve us well in our practice of yoga. Okay, so third pose in the book is Trikonasana, triangle pose. One of the amazing things about the Iyengar yoga tradition is the way that they have developed the use of the prop to give us more awareness of the pose. Okay? And so the prop is not just because we can't do the classic pose, though there's that aspect of it too. But more often, props are often used, and my teacher Devin calls them proprioceptive devices. Okay? They're meant to, what that means is that they're meant to increase your awareness or your sensation of yourself and yourself into the pose. Okay, so we're going to do 3 different ways of using the wall for Trikonasana. Okay. Tay was in class yesterday, and so we basically did this. So I'll try and think of something slightly new. But so one really basic way to use the wall is just as a border for the back of your foot. Okay. So you're going to put the little toe side of the foot of your back leg. It will be your left leg probably, though it doesn't really matter which side you do. And then you're going to take a big step out with your other leg. And what that connection of the foot against the wall hopefully does, at least in this stage, is it gives your little toe side of the foot something to press into. And it'd be nice if you had like a wall on the other side. And the little toe presses into the wall, but remember that upward action, okay? Like we had this strap in Dandasana, you know? In fact, we could do that here. Go ahead and take your strap. Put the strap underneath the arch of the foot, either by the heel or by the ball of the foot. And then go back against the wall. So now you've got the strap that we were using like Dandasana, okay? But use it more to, well, you can pull your arch up too, to pull that little toe side of the foot up into the outer hip. Now, if you get it right, it'll also help you really roll that shoulder back without distorting the shoulder. Okay. All right, and then now our arms are just in the Tadasana position. Okay. Now turn your right leg out. Okay. It externally rotates just like, and turn your left toes a little bit away from the wall, but still pull on that strap with your hand. Okay. All right, then keep pulling on the strap with your hand as you reach your arm out. Okay. Then bring your hand down to your shin. Pull on the strap and roll that top shoulder back. This is actually a very nice opening in this top armpit because it tends to drop, right? Okay, now you have to say goodbye to your strap and reach your arm up. And if it extend from the tailbone through the head, and again, if it doesn't bother your neck, turn your head to look up toward the ceiling. If it does bother your neck, you keep it straight. But one of the things that's happening in this sequence is that you're learning the range of motion of the neck. Then press into your back heel, come all the way up, turn your feet back to the center, and walk your feet in. Now
I was gonna say I don't mind doing the same thing again, but that kind of rope with almost like a Shalabhasana arm shoulder entry was so nice. I take it back.
I had to think of something new. It was, you're right. Oh, what a good link. It's like Shalabhasana. Exactly right. Which is where your legs, so it's like a prep for a belly down back bend. Okay, so now you have to do the second side. So you can either turn around and not face the screen or move your strap to another wall, another wall. I'm actually gonna do it sideways for you now, just because that's the way my wall is. All right, step with your feet wide apart again. Okay. And experience the back leg without a strap first, because the wall does do a lot. Suck your outer ankles in. But now add the strap. Now I'm realizing I can just lift my toe up and use the strap here. Yeah. And then you're pulling that strap up. I mean, don't pull on it so much that your shoulder lifts up towards your ear. So you walk down on the strap, pull on it, but what you should really feel is exactly what Tay said. Basically like you're doing Shalabhasana, which is a laying down. What is a Shalabhasana? Is it a cobra? No. Locust. Shalabha is a locust. All right, locust pose. All right, then turn your front leg out. Pull on that strap as you reach your arm out to the side. And when you go out to that side, it gets even more of a back bend opening in that top chest. Then place your hand down to your shins. And then you have to let go of your Shalabhasana arm and lift it up. Yeah, that's working well for y'all. Good. Nice turn of the head, Tay. Okay. Good, Chaya. Okay, everyone's arms look fantastic having done that work. Okay, then to come out of the pose, press into your back heel, reach up with your hand and come all the way up. Turn your feet back to the center and then come all the way in. All right, so the other way to use the wall, which is particularly good if you're tired, menstruating, pregnant, is to use the support of the wall against your back body. So I'm moving my handy dandy strap to the wall. I've got a fancy rope wall, but any wall will work. Sometimes the ropes get in the way. All right. My shirt in now. Hold on just a second. You may want a brick also to go down to the floor. We can still use our strap actually. But actually we won't need our strap as much here because we've got the wall. So when you're working with your back to the wall, okay, there's a little bit of, you have to figure out exactly where you want to be against the wall. Because if you just put your heel, go ahead and try it, put your heels all the way against the wall and you'll feel that you get pushed away from the wall. Right? So the heels need to be enough away from the wall that you can feel the buttocks against the wall and that you can feel your shoulder blades against the wall also. Okay. The lower back is gonna just have whatever curvature that it has. Okay. Now, remember when we were in Supta Tadasana and we were holding on to the sides of the sticky mat? You can do that here standing. You can bend your knees a little bit and that'll help you lengthen the buttocks. Okay. And then straighten your legs. Okay. But you're not trying to mush the back of the body completely against the wall. Okay, so your hand, there'll be some space there. Okay, but you do have the wall as, again, both for support, but also as a proprioceptive device, something that helps you see something about yourself, right? And it's helping you see, hopefully, your back body. So I can feel, for instance, that my right shoulder, which got its vaccine yesterday, is moved a little bit away from the wall. Okay. So I'm gonna move my right shoulder blade back so that my chest lifts and opens a little bit more. Okay. Then walk your feet out wide. Okay. Now you could, okay, still use the Shalabhasana strap. Okay. But what the wall is also teaching you is to keep your shoulder blade against the wall, okay, so that it makes that Shalabhasana action in your chest. So if you want to still use your back leg strap, feel free. Okay. I'm not, just because I'm using the wall. Now turn your legs, back leg in, front leg out. And then when you did that, you probably will feel, oh, my torso moved away from the wall. So I'm going to move it back to the wall. Even though your legs are slightly rotated differently, you want to make your buttocks feel more or less similar against the wall. Okay. All right, now stretch your arms out. Unless you're using the strap, then you can still hold on to the strap. And then as you slide out to the side, keep your back body against the wall. Okay. So the tendency when you slide out is to lean away from the wall. So keep yourself against the wall and then reach down and put your hand on your shin or the brick. Okay. And one of the things that's nice, if you ever decide in the remainder of the pandemic to get a rope wall, I'm actually holding on to the rope with my hand, which is also, and turning. But if you don't have the rope established, it's totally fine. Just stretch your arm up straight. Now lengthen from the tailbone through the head and turn your head, just like Anantasana, right? In fact, you could even put your hand on your head and help it turn a little bit more. That would be your bottom hand, right? And then come out of the pose. Turn your feet back to the center. And then let's do the other side. Turn your legs in. Okay. Use your Shalabhasana strap if you want. And even if you don't have your Shalabhasana strap, you can pretend you have your Shalabhasana strap and lift up into that armpit and really feel that opening that comes into that front chest. Now stretch your arms out. Okay. And that here's another interesting thing about this sequence, right? We did arms down, we did arms above the head. Third pose, we're learning arms out wide. Okay, so that's the range of motion of the arms. And stretch out, and as you stretch out, keep that back shoulder blade against the wall. And then bring your hand down to your shin and reach your top arm up. Move your shoulder blades back against the wall. Turn your head and add the Anantasana little prop. Put your bottom hand against that occipital bone and turn. And lo and behold, I can actually get a little bit more turn in my neck when it has that support. It's nice. Oh, beautiful. These look fantastic triangle poses. All right, then come all the way up. Turn your feet. I like that shoulder support you just did, Karen Higgins. That was good. All right, and then walk your feet in. So I do my standing poses against the wall a good bit, partly because I really like the rope wall work, but and it also takes some weight off of your hips kind of crashing down into your groin, which is nice. Yesterday I took my normal Friday morning 7:30 class with Lori, who is, remember, coming to do a short mini workshop with us at Yoga Tree next weekend. It's her traditional trip to Austin after the political weekend. And it's just 1:30 to 4 in the afternoon, so on Saturday and Sunday. So we'll still have this class and we'll still have Devin's class in the morning, but we'll also get to work with Lori and you can sign up on the website. Okay, so I'm really excited that that's still happening. All right, and she was teaching another way of working with the wall, which is fantastic, but I just don't do it a lot. Okay. But it reminded me that in the first, Abhijata Iyengar taught this in the first of those special workshops that she did back in May, I believe, that you can do standing poses facing the wall, and they're very mentally soothing and emotionally soothing, right? So what does that look like? I'm gonna have to turn my back to you to see, right? But you turn your back and you face the wall. Okay. And when you work facing the wall, you do actually want your toes to go all the way to the wall. Okay. I mean, Kirsten, obviously you're going to have to adapt this a little bit. So you know what you could do, Kirsten? You could put bricks down on the floor at the edge of the wall, okay, so that you've got some space, right? So that you're not going to be all the way up the wall. Okay. So you can move yourself a little bit away from the wall. But when you turn and go toward the wall, you kind of have your hands against the wall and you can pull down and lift the chest up. Then you turn your feet. And as you go into the pose, push your hands against the wall so the torso goes toward the wall and you'll go down into Trikonasana. Okay, that's the general idea. I'm gonna now turn around and watch you do it. Okay, so stand facing the wall. Pratima, that looks excellent. Okay. And get your toes pretty close to the wall, even touching the wall, okay, if the shape of your body allows that. If it doesn't, then just move a little bit away from the wall. Then walk your feet out wide if you haven't already. Keep your hands right about at your shoulder blades. And you kind of pull the fingers down and lift the chest up. All right, turn your feet now. A little wider with your legs, Gay. All right. Turn your feet and we're gonna go toward the right. That looks good, Sue, that. All right, and then as you're going down into the pose, keep pushing your fingers into the wall so you're turning your torso toward the wall. Then at some point, you're gonna lower your right hand down and you're gonna lift your left arm up. And at some point, the left arm then can move a little bit away from the wall, right? Because it would be a little bit forward. There you go, good. Okay, that looks really good. And then turn your head to look up toward the ceiling. Nice, Vicky, nice even sides of the torso. So one of the things I'm noticing, seeing you doing it this way, is everyone's torso sides are pretty even. And if you like the little head support for Anantasana, turning your head, you could do that. And turn your head up toward the ceiling. Good. And then come all the way up. Turn your feet and walk your feet in. So one of the things also, Laura said, you know, those trestles or horse, you've probably seen them. They're like look like a balance beam that you do standing poses against. Laura said in Pune, more often people do work facing the trestler than using it for back support. Okay, so this is basically like making your wall feel like a trestler. Okay, second side, right? Okay, so turn your feet back to the center. This is really helping. Oh, I like that, Chaya. Chaya reached her arms up. So you could add in a different arm movement here. You could reach your arms up the wall and get that armpit moving. Okay. Then you can bring your fingertips back towards your shoulders. Okay. Then turn your feet if you haven't already. Okay. And then stretch your arms out and then tip over into Trikonasana. And as you're tipping over, use your top arm, which is now your left arm, to push your fingers into the wall so you rotate yourself away from the wall and suck your outer femur bone in toward the wall. That's it. Then you can straighten your top arm up. Okay, that's a really nice looking pose. All right, and then press your heel into the wall and pull yourself all the way back up. Turn your feet and walk your feet in. And turn around and come into Tadasana.
It's a little better, but...
All right. Okay, I'm going to speed up a little bit just because that took longer than I anticipated. All right, so the next pose is Parsvakonasana. We did an elaborate chair Parsvakonasana yesterday in class, but I'm just going to do one version of it. Right. So get a chair and 2 bricks. If you don't have a chair, you can just do it unsupported, and I would suggest doing it unsupported against the wall. Okay, so here we've got our Parsvakonasana chair. Then what you're going to do is put a brick on the chair. If you have a wooden brick, I would suggest putting a sticky mat on the chair.
What's one brick?
And then I have the setup, right? I might not have the chair set up right, sorry. I'm gonna change the setup of the chair. You're gonna put the chair, you know, where the back of the chair is facing toward the front of your sticky mat. Okay. Then you have your brick and you have a brick for your feet. Okay. Then you're gonna put your right leg on the brick and you have a choice about where the brick goes. You can turn the brick the short way and it really just talks to the sitting bone. Or you can turn the brick the long way and it supports more of the back of the thigh. Whoa, be careful you don't tip off the brick. I just did that. Okay, all right, and then here you are. I have to move my brick in a little bit more. You can also just sit on the chair if this feels too complicated. Okay, so here we are. And I see how I have my hands against the back of the chair, okay? And I can use them in the same way of using the wall. Karen Higgins, move your foot out a little bit. Okay? Now this opens the groin a lot more. Okay? And turn your torso. One of the poses in this sequence is Vera 2, so let's just get Vera 2 in here. Okay? All right, then from Vera 2, turn your head to look at the battle in front of you. You're gonna reach down and put your hands somewhere on the inner thigh. But see how I've still got my top arm against the chair and I'm turning my torso back so it really stays open. And I'm just feeling a little precarious balance-wise in this particular setup, so I'm not gonna do the arm position in that way. I'm gonna come back up onto my elbow and then add the arm, okay? And turn the head. And look, here we are back in Vrikshasana arms. All right, and then come all the way back up. Carefully come out of the chair. Again, you can just sit on the chair. Yeah. But what I like about the brick personally is it really takes the outer and the back of the femur bone in more. And somehow, it's also for me, I mean, I'm pretty short. And so when I just try and straddle the chair, it's a little too intense or it's not comfortable, I guess is what I would say. But when I add this brick, suddenly I get more opening in my groin. Okay? But because I've raised the brick up, the chair up, I have to add the foot on the floor, the brick on the floor. Now, if you're tall, you might not need the brick on the floor. Okay? All right, now again, be careful that you don't tip. Okay? All right, so you may need to move your brick in. Okay? Use your hands against the chair like we use the hands against the wall. And stretch your arms out. Look, there's the outward arm action again. Turn your head to look toward the battle in front of you. Vera 2 comes a couple poses later in the sequence, but we're just going to do it here. Okay. All right, then from Vera 2, put your hand back on the chair, slide down, push your elbow and your knee against each other, and push on that chair so you really open that groin and rotate the torso. And in this setup, I don't personally feel quite balanced. Well, I guess I could do it. I could stretch my arm up, but I'm gonna go back to the elbow position on my thigh. Turn the torso, then add the arm, then add the head. Again, it's that same Anantasana turn of the head. And if you can move your arm back behind the ear and turn the head a little bit more, it's even more like Vrikshasana. And then come all the way up. Come out of the chair. Now, before we do Vera 1, come back into Tadasana. We'll do Vera 1 the same way. But that's that working with that brick, those 2 bricks, and working with the chair, it really helps open the hips. Okay? And as I'm standing back here in Tadasana, I can really feel those outer femur bones move in a little bit more. Okay? And I feel the lift coming into the chest. Okay, so you can do Vera 1 the same way, okay? With the brick and the chair, or you can just do regular Vera 1. I've got my brick in front of me. You know, the entry of this is slightly different. Okay? You know, in fact, I'm gonna enter it without the brick. Okay? Put my foot on the brick, and then I'm gonna add the brick, turn my feet and sit down. Okay, so here I am in Vera 1. And I'm using the chair in the same way to turn the torso. You may need to get your back leg organized that's against the wall. That looks good, Vicki. All right, here we are. Virabhadrasana 1. Add your arms, Urdhva Namaskar. Now here's the third thing the sequence asks the neck to do. Arch your neck back. Lift your arms up, arch the neck back. Open that front of the neck, creating strength in the back of the neck for all sorts of backward bending actions. And bring your head back, bring your arms back, and carefully extricate yourself from the chair.
And what's your back leg doing? Is it like directly behind the front leg or?
Pretty much. Here, I'm going to show it from the side this time so we can see. Okay, so there are a couple of things you can do with the back leg. I guess I'm going to repeat my same side. Well, I can go the other way and do my other side. Okay, so particularly if you don't work with the brick, and you're shorter, it's really hard to get the back leg straight because the chair pushes the thigh in a very uncomfortable way, okay? But when you add the brick, the chair will help you. It's a good question, Pratima. Okay, so when I go in, I actually am up on the ball of my foot. Okay? And that helps me turn my torso and get more of the front thigh on the chair. And it's a lot less uncomfortable for me when I'm on the brick. Now, right now I'm still up on the ball of my foot. And you can work Virabhadrasana that way. But then it actually turns and the heel goes down toward the floor. Okay? Now, when it turns, the thigh moves a little bit more toward the inner thigh. So I want to correct that and move more towards still pushing the front of the thigh. Okay? And now I can get my legs straighter, okay? Even with my heel on the floor. Okay? But the heel, to answer, I guess, your alignment question, the heels are lined up with each other. Okay? So my front heel and my back heel should be in a line. Okay? Unless you're pregnant or have difficulty with balance, you can move the front leg out to the side a little bit, okay? So good question. Let's do the second side. Hello, Guthrie. Yeah, good boy. All right, so come into the chair. All right, good boy. Say hello to everyone, then you have to go out and say hello to Pounder, partner. I don't know why I keep on calling him Pounder. Okay, all right, so do the second side. That looks good, Tay. I'm gonna take advantage, those of you using the chair. Karen Higgins, your front foot is a little too far forward. All right, there you go. Yeah, there you go. And then add your arms. Turn your torso again, Cliff, more toward the front of the chair. Nice, Melinda. And so here's the arms. Can you add the arms in Namaskarasana? Reach up more, lift up through your chest and arch your head back. Chaya, pretty good, but straighten your arms more. Good. Okay, and then come out of the pose. Extricate yourself from the chair. Say goodbye to your chair for now. And then come back and stand in Tadasana again. And you should feel, and this relates to Pratima's question, you should feel, so when we came back to Tadasana after Parshvakonasana, I felt more of the effect in terms of my outer hips moving in. What I feel after Vira 1 work is more opening in the front groin. I feel taller in the pelvic region. All right, the next pose in the sequence is Parshvottanasana. Okay? And it adds the fourth arm element, okay, where you bring your arms behind your back. Okay? Into Namaskarasana, if you can. Okay? If you can't, okay, you just hold on to your wrists, okay? Hold on to your elbows, or you can even keep your hands on your hips. Okay? I'm gonna work with my back heel against the wall just for a little sense of balance. Okay? But here we have, remember in terms of the arms, we had arms at the sides, we had arms above the head, we had arms out wide. Here's the fourth arm position, arms in the back plane. All of that comes in the first sequence. Okay, and then take a big step out with your right leg, have your left heel back against the wall. Pretend you still have the wall to level out the torso. Press your back heel into the wall and move your top thigh back. This pose also has that same back arch, backward bending, where you arch up through and look up toward the ceiling. Use your fingers into the back of the chest to lift up. And then fold forward. Even in person, you're not going to fold forward much, right? Right, and then you continue all the way down, ideally, until your chin actually reaches your shin. And that's a little other neck thing. So even if you're not there, look at your shin first, and then lift your chin up and look to the floor and see if you can get a little bit deeper in the pose. And it's a little bit of a different position on the neck, right? And then come up. All right, nice. Tiniest bit, Tay, you're a little hyperextending in the front leg, but not a lot. So maybe, I mean, don't bend the knee, but move the back of the shin, move the calf a little bit toward the shin, I guess is what I would say. All right, then get your arm position back if you need to. Take a big step, plus your back heel against the wall. It just helps with balance, stability. Okay, remember Vrikshasana, we were talking about balance, tree pose. Here's another pose, particularly when you don't have the hands, okay, where balance is really an issue. Okay. So you have to really draw up through the inner thighs, compact your hips, come forward, okay, and then you work to bring your head down toward your shin. And for a long time, I really thought I was trying to get my forehead to my shin. But when I actually looked at the picture in the book, his chin is on his shin. That's it, the better on this side too. Good. So even if your chin is not going toward your shin, lift your head up a little bit. And I actually find that I can go down a little bit more when my head is more toward the shin. All right. And then come all the way back up. So the other place, there's a version of that pose which we did last week when our legs are out, when our arms are out wide, right? But, you know, we did the Supta Padangusthasana earlier. So Supta Padangusthasana 1 is really very similar to this pose. So let's just touch Supta Padangusthasana 1 and then go into our abbreviated inversion sequence. Okay. All right, so lie down again in Supta Tadasana. Have your strap. Feels very nice to lie down after all that standing pose work. Okay. Kirsten, you're going to repeat Supta Padangusthasana 2. Okay. The rest of us are going to put the leg up straight. And look, aren't your legs more or less doing Parsvottanasana right now, right? And as you develop in Supta Padangusthasana 1, you bring that leg in more and more and more. You're going to exhale, do a sit-up, and bring your forehead toward your shin, actually your chin and your forehead toward your shin. Now, it gets a little easier if you bend the bottom leg. Really pull that forehead toward the shin, and then stretch the leg back out. Lower your head down, lower your leg down, and feel the difference between the right leg and the left leg. And then do the second side. Stretch your leg up. Think of Supta Padangusthasana 1 like Parsvottanasana, so pull that leg in. Actually, to make it more like Parsvottanasana, you could internally rotate your bottom leg a little bit. Pull that leg in as much as you can, keeping it straight. Then exhale, do a sit-up and really pull with your arm, and I'm closing the gap. Then bend up your other leg and pull even a little bit more. Can you get your forehead to your shin or your chin to your shin? All right, pull. Keep the ground you gained and stretch the leg out. Lower your head back down. And here we are in Supta Tadasana. In the interest of time, because for some reason this time flew by today, he doesn't have Shirshasana in the sequence. What's next after Parsvottanasana is actually Sarvangasana. So we're on the floor, bend your knees, and I'm teaching the inversion sequences later, so tuck your shoulders underneath you and lift your buttocks up. Do a Chatushpadasana. You know, it feels actually pretty good. Just going into that Chatushpadasana, shoulder stand work. Lift your chest well. All right, and then lower your buttocks down. And then scoot yourself to the wall for legs up the wall pose. And the end of the sequence is Halasana, Sarvangasana, Halasana. But we're just gonna combine the Sarvangasana work into Viparita Karani. So scoot your legs up to the wall. Kirsten, if you'd rather do Supta Baddha Konasana, that's fine. All right, so come into legs up the wall pose. Instead of Sarvangasana, Halasana. We're gonna do legs up the wall pose, then Paschimottanasana, then Shavasana. So I was mentioning yesterday that Viparita Karani, legs up the wall pose, and what actually means inverted lake pose, is actually not in Light on Yoga. There are other poses that we normally do that are not in Light on Yoga. Supta Baddha Konasana actually isn't in Light on Yoga either. And apparently there was an original version of Light on Yoga that was much longer and had much more pictures in it, and it was already a pretty long book, so he had to abbreviate things. Apparently it doesn't exist anymore, but some people think they may know where it is, which would be an interesting archival discovery. But, so it could have been in some version, but the larger point too is that, you know, Iyengar Yoga, for all of our exploration backward into what was doing in Light on Yoga, is still a living tradition. People are still exploring and developing and practicing and refining. There's a new assessment sequence, a new assessment process. So one of the other things that motivated me to go back to kind of this basic exploration of Light on Yoga was to have it in mind as I learn the new assessment process. I've actually been accepted to be an assessor in training this year, which is kind of exciting. So I thought it would serve me well to look at the basics or how it was originally laid out as I learn and teach other people how it's laid out now. But all that said, inverted leg pose also is very clearly much like Sarvangasana. Your legs are up, particularly if your buttocks are on something, your chest is lifted. And you've got that next neck position. You've got Jalandhara Bandha where the chin goes toward the chest. So for me, the biggest thing that I've gotten that solidified my awareness by doing these sequence for 2 weeks is the neck work. Side, straight up and down, side to side, back and forward. So we should do that in our necks. And the arm work, arms at the sides, arms overhead, arms out wide, arms behind the back. That's really everything that the arms can do. It's not everything the neck can do because the neck gets the stand of the head and the neck can make neck circles, right? But it's a lot of what the neck can do. And you've got internal and external rotation of the legs, which is basically all the legs do in all of the poses. So you've really got the seeds of every single pose in Light on Yoga in this first sequence. And since he can do all of the poses in the book, I imagine that he knew that. And so what's a sequence that trains the neck? Well, trains the legs, trains the arms, trains the neck. All right, bend your knees, roll to your side and sit up back in Dandasana for just a second.
Bend your knees, roll to your side and sit up.
Okay. And then remember I said that there's also halasana in this sequence. So set yourself up so that you have enough room where you don't hit your head and laying back straight down into shavasana. But instead of halasana, just come into an upside down halasana, which is called paschimottanasana. You can put a bolster on your shins. Okay? And when I did this, and I'm doing it, it actually is very, Paschimottanasana is not my favorite pose. Yeah. But I was noticing in doing it this way, okay, or after this sequence, my brain actually felt very quiet in Paschimottanasana. And it feels quiet too in Halasana. And so it prepares, hopefully, the brain to have a really nice quiet Shavasana. So then you just come out of Paschimottanasana and then just roll yourself back into Shavasana, which is corpse pose. Let your make whatever adjustments you need. Let your eyes release into the back of your head. Let your tongue release away from the roof of your mouth. Unclench your jaw. Let the back of the throat release. Let the sides of the throat release. Let the base of the throat release. Let your ears draw inward. Completely relax the features of your face. Become quiet within. You know, this first sequence is obviously standing pose intensive. Standing poses really are it's like backbone of the yoga practice. But they're tiring, yeah, too. And the quality of a shavasana that comes after a standing pose practice, for me, is often quite nice. I did the hard work of the standing poses. A little bit of cooling of the brain, the sarvangasana work. And then that comes into shavasana very nicely. So we're out of time for today. We'll take a couple deeper breaths, bringing what Iyengar refers to as the unalloyed bliss that one can cultivate in the practice of shavasana with you as you go about your work in the world. Place your hands on your rib cage, bend your knees, roll to your right side, and use your hands to push yourself back up. Sit up straight and tall, lift your chest well, close your eyes and fold your palms together at your heart. Observe the effect that your practice has on you. Observe it on every layer of your being, from the physical to the most deeply spiritual. In gratitude to the benefit you receive from your practice of yoga, in gratitude to the people you have the opportunity to learn and study and practice yoga with, in gratitude to the lineage of Hatha Yoga itself, as practiced by Bhikkhu Iyengar, reaching back to the sages of India, and down through a line of teachers and students to you, here on the mat in Austin, Texas, or wherever you happen to be in the world, through the miracle of Zoom. Namaste.